And I just want to say thank you to Pauline and the team for the introduction and for the work you've done this morning in ensuring that everyone is set up. They have a GitHub account and they are ready to learn. And so what we'll do is just more hands-on. So I'll spend more time doing it in a hands-on way, which means we'll be doing the practical aspect as we go along. So I'm not going to be giving more of a lecture, but more of a hands-on training session through this 1 hour that's ahead of us. And so I just want to ask you that you have an open mind. If you have any question, please do ask so that we can all be at the same point, ensure that no one is left behind, and ensure that we all get to learn together. So what I'm going to do now is, if you go to your Canvas page, you should find within the GitHub module, you should find the session. So I've added a few links there. There's a training repo, the GitHub training repo, and also there is a link to some slides that we're going to be using for today's session. So I'll just share my screen and then we can be on our way. Good. I believe that you can see my screen about now.
Yes.
Okay, so the repo, and I think that should be in the HackMD document. But what I'll do is I'll also just add it the chat, just to make sure that anyone may have missed that, and I need to find my chat. Yes. So if you go to that link by Infonet teaching Git, you'll find just a bit of an introduction there to the short course, and it's just the focus is just take you through from getting an account which you've already gone through to now getting to use GitHub for your day-to-day activities. And I think what I want to do is to motivate the need, why you would want to utilize Git and GitHub for your work. If you are Open Science Fair Symposium, you may have received a bit of an introduction to GitHub then as well. So some of the things you'd already gotten some introduction to, and I think some of you also, I can see some of you who are part of this training have also received an introduction on, or a kind of experience when it comes to using GitHub. So if you are in that phase, feel free to relax, sit back, support others, answer questions where you can. So that we can all make good progress. So there is within that shared link, I hope you all able to log into that. There is an introduction and then setting up, which for most of you, you already have access to the command line via the HPC. But for now, we are not using GitHub or Git on the command line. We'll just focus more on GitHub, and then maybe a few more. Like at the end, we can see we still have some time. We can just get to introduce a little bit on GitHub on the command line. So those are the instructions if you do not have access to a terminal. But what we'll be using a whole lot is this link here. Number one, lecture slides, introduction to Git and GitHub. So I already have an open link right here. And that's what we'll be using for this session. So if you notice, you'll notice that, okay, you may not notice, but GitHub initially was open source and owned by more or less, yeah, it was open source and owned openly, but now it's actually owned by Microsoft. and you'd see that a lot of things now are getting linked to Microsoft, and there's been a whole deal of changes that have been made uh, to follow that. So I will be using these slides. I'll be introducing GitHub, and I'll be using this Mozilla Science Lab training resource, which we've edited a little bit to fit your training, and also added some more specific examples that you would be able to relate with. And so to just start off, this would be the outline, some introduction, what GitHub is and how it's used, talk about private and public repositories, some bit of hands-on README editing, and I'm glad you guys have been editing the HackMD documents, so we'll be able to relate what you'll be doing on the read when it comes to README editing with what you've been doing before. Some group work, and then just getting to work on projects and a few other social features that come with GitHub. And then we'll continue from there. So when you talk about Git and GitHub, I think uh, day-to-day activities, let's think about you're editing a document, and you're working with your supervisor, and you have your Microsoft Word document, and what you do is you'd share the first version with your supervisor. They would add some comments. They would send you an updated version. So now you have two documents, and then you make some changes on that one. You have another version of the document. You send to your supervisor. They make some changes, and so forth, right? As you continually make those changes, the number of documents that you may have in your folder continually increases. So the number of folders, the number of files continually increases, and you would end up with maybe 20 files at the end of it all. And I guess you've come across the aspect of when you're sending it to your supervisor, you're like, okay, this is now the final version of the document. And then it comes back with some comments, and you realize it's no longer the final. So you have to change the naming. So you have to final, and it's some people joke that you can end up with this is really the final one, like, and that always continues like that. Uh, and what you've been doing there by creating different versions of the document. So what you have there is a different version of the document, of the changes that you've made on that document. So as you make those changes, you create a version of that document. Okay, so you continually have a series of documents, but that is not optimal. One, you may notice that as you do that, you will end up with so with regards to space, so because you would end up with several versions of the document, sometimes you may actually forget which one was the latest version and so forth. Some people would say, okay, now you need to make some changes with that. Use the dates. So every time you have a snapshot, you create a date, and then you share that. Or if you make a bit of an update, you realize that you can utilize if you use Microsoft, not Microsoft per se, if you use Google Docs, you realize that you really don't need to change to have a snapshot of the of the file, because automatically it creates snapshots. So what you call there, it creates snapshots of the file that you're working on continuously. So what it will be when you see the final version that you're looking at there, it allows you to roll back and just have a look at the different version that you've worked with. So you could decide to use that, or you could decide to use Dropbox. So you could, for example, uh, instead of sending an email to your supervisor with a new file, you could just share with your supervisor, for example, a Dropbox folder, or a Google Drive folder, or a OneDrive folder, whichever the collaborative tool, yeah, whichever the storage uh, cloud platform that you are using. And so with that, the systems that you are using there automatically keep versions of those documents for you. And so it means that your supervisor can edit the same document and you'd be able to see the changes that they made. And if you get to a point and you realize, okay, I need to roll back to a previous version, you can easily go to history, the history of that file, and be able to roll back. Okay. And so you can do that utilizing that such tools. And what I've just detailed to you is uh, how you would achieve a higher level of more or less keeping track of the changes that you are making uh, on a particular document. And that's only available in such platforms, and it's only useful for particular certain types of files. But then if you're dealing with specifically text files, you're writing scripts, you're writing code, those platforms that I've just talked about may not be ideal for such functionalities. So, and you guys have been introduced to Linux, Git, you've been introduced to NGS, and you've been using the command line. So what you are doing there, you are writing commands, you'll be writing scripts. And how do you keep track of such uh, when it comes to you as you make changes, and how do you keep track of those? So that's the part that we want to, that's here now we're introducing Git. And specifically, let's start with Git. So Git in itself is that version control system, and it's not the only one, it's the most commonly used. There are other subversion that's also commonly used. Uh, so what they do is it's a version control system, and that helps you keep track of a history of the things that you are doing on the file. So, and it's also the second aspect there is facilitated collaboration. Okay, and we'll get to see as we go along how it is able to do that. So GitHub, on the other hand, is now the platform for hosting Git repositories. Okay, so this is web-based service for version control and online collaboration, and we'll get to collaborate utilizing that tool in the next few minutes. So others could consider it also as a social networking site for developers. That's where you get to interact, you get to have discussions about software and scripts and code. And it's also can also be used to manage projects. And for someone who is interested in building their uh, portfolio and creating a feasibility for their work, then they would utilize GitHub there on the other. So it's used for many things. It can be used for project management, manage a project. It can be used for, so you can see there's an open project here, and it'll just be, so you can see this, all this is within it, and low cost open access. It's a collaborative project. You can see the contributors here. Uh, so everything there captured within a platform there. Okay, so you've this one here, it has been used for project management and collaboration, and everyone can contribute to it and make updates and so forth, right? So that's one of the usages. It can be used to manage an event. So for example, we had a hackathon, and within the hackathon we used to manage that particular event on the various, so here the various projects that we were working on within the hackathon, having different collaborators come on board and contribute. And I'll be specifically defining some of these terminologies: collaborator, contributor. Who are they? Okay, as we go along. And of course, you can develop a website. So you'd see a whole website. Oh, no, that's currently been archived. But so this was a whole website that was developed via GitHub. So I'll have to update that link because now it's no longer valid. And several other things. Managing a whole project here. So this is a whole project management. So you can see these things that are open data, community building, code literacy, and so forth, right? And you can use it for your own project management work at work. Okay, so that's the other way in which someone can utilize Git and GitHub. And you'd find even Git itself, and not GitHub itself, they have their open repository. So if you go to github.com, then GitHub, you'll see this is the GitHub repository. Okay, so this is for GitHub, and here they you would find now even that the software itself that runs GitHub would be available here. So let's just find it here. Okay. This one there, I don't think that's the one that we. Mm, find that, but I can see it here. I hope they didn't remove it after GitHub took over. It was always here. Okay, interesting. Interesting. So GitHub, yeah, they kind of probably removed it. All right, we'll figure that later today as we go along. So I guess they're moving a little bit towards private, unless I have failed to find where it is. All right, so you can use it for many other things, websites and events, study groups, Gitbook, and so forth. Like the utility of GitHub is unlimited. You can use it for so many different things. So you can see, very interesting, so many broken links here. Mm, okay, that should be fine now. Yeah, so this is an event, a whole page for the event, everything that was done, the schedule, presentations, different sessions, uh, just within that one page. Okay, and that's all developed in GitHub. You can do code documentation. You can see I was talking about GitHub themselves having it here. Workshops, courses. So you can do it. The utilities are unlimited and so many other things. People write their CVs there. People write their whole thesis on GitHub. And here you'd see each chapter, introduction, the front matter, and the rest, all set up within one page. And uh, they can create a whole document. I think it's uh, link, I think it's inactive. They haven't they haven't activated that. Then to-do list, so someone can uh, create a to-do list. So this week, the next week, and every week after. So someone has a to-do list, and they use GitHub for that, and that works well for other people. All right. So it all depends on how you would want to use it. The utility is unlimited. Okay, so I think what you've already done is the sign up. So you've already signed up, you already have an account, you already have a GitHub account. You can also monitor the chat just in case if you have questions, just pop it into the chat and I'll be able to see it and respond to it. So what I want us to do is to create our first repo. It may not look exactly like that, but I want us to create our first repo. So what I want you to do right now is, let me just close all this. And so we have, okay. So when you log in, you may see a different, your page may look a little bit different, depending on how you've set up. But I want us to just log in. You should see that as you log in. If it's the first time completely, it will be empty. You wouldn't have anything within that page. Okay. So just log in there to your account. You could also log in, you'd end up at that point. If you log in without clicking on your account, so you probably would end up on this page. So depending on what you have access to, so I'm part of so many organizations and repos, so that's why you can see so many of those. So don't worry about the content that's here. What I want you to do is you go to this plus sign here, new repository. Okay. So I want you to follow along with me when it comes to this. So go to your GitHub, then new repository. So for the templating, just leave it at no template. So what the templates I usually use if you're setting, sometimes I set exams via GitHub. For my part, I have access to many different accounts, and let me just create it in my own personal account. So uh, let's call, just give it a name. Some people would just call it fast repo. And at this point, and I'll just talk about this in a moment. So you can never put a space there. When you put a space, automatically it will add for you an underscore or a dash. Okay. So you can either, you can type in first, then a dash repo. You can type in first, then capitalize that first repo, or you could use first repo, you add an underscore there. All those are allowed. So it's for readability purpose. So if you write it, of course, if you look at it, if you write it like that, it looks like a single word and it's not clear how to read that. And so that's where these kind of cases are set up. So first repo set up as such. And if you look at the next slide here, it's, you can use what they call the underscore is a snake case. Then you have camel case when you capitalize the first letter, the second sentence, the second word, the first letter of the second word. Train case or kebab case, depending, is the one that they use a dash. And then you have Pascal case where you have already up, you're using uppercase, but you're also using an underscore or a dash or everything more or less in uppercase. So choose a case and use it consistently where you can, all right? So we are, what we are doing, we are creating our repo. So let's just call it fast repo. Choose what works for you. Uh, workshop. So these are private or public, and for this, just set it on public. So private, it means you're the only one who can see the content of that repository. So if you're working on a project that you wouldn't want others to have access to, then you set it up to private. Okay. And then at the beginning, initialize it with a README. And this is where, this is what we will be editing in the next few minutes. So click on add README. And then for now, don't set add key ignore. We'll or choose license, just leave those as empty for now. So automatically it will be created with main as the default branch, and we'll talk about the branches in a moment. So having done all of that, if you have any issues, just raise your hand. But I hope you are all following up with me as we go through this. So just click on create repository. And what you will end up with would be a page that would look like this. So as you see, the content that you had written in the description is now added first repo as part of the boss workshop. You have here the content there, first repo, whatever you had added there is already added as the initial content. Okay, so I'll just give you guys a minute, just ensure that you're all set up. So if you're done setting up as such, just raise your hand, then we will know that you are following along. If you have created your first repo, raise your hand. Okay. Fine. Okay. A few more. Ensure that you have your first repo. It's really important. You have a challenge. So if you want to access the raise your hand, so just go to reactions and you should be able to see an option for raising your hand there. Okay. So the reactions, that's the way I have done there. If you go to reaction, you'd be able to raise your hand. Uh, so if you haven't and you're facing any challenge, just on the chat at the moment, specify the issue that you're having. So if you've previously set it up, just consider it as you've done that. If you want to raise your hand just for the sake of the rest, please do so. All right, so I think I'll move forward from there because I think we don't have so much time. Okay, so we've talked about these different cases. Choose one and use it consistently. So what you did, you had created the name, added a description, set up private, then initialize with a README, and here you didn't need to set up an account. So private repositories, initially they were only available to paying customers, or if you had an education email address. So if you have an institutional email address, you could get like more or less the premium version. So, but for now, each one can have access to actually a private account, especially if you're using uh, it for custom use. Within an organization, it's not available. It's only available if you have paid for it. So this is where you use for handling sensitive information, so internal organization communication, conference organization, one-on-one consultations, and so forth. So, and of course, anyone is uncomfortable with openness. And you can always start with it being private, and later on, you can open it up for everyone. So, for example, if you're working on your research project, you could start with a private repo, and as you go along, you change it to public when you are published or you're done with your research and you want others to contribute further. So, having done that, having created our first repo, I want us to uh, go to now the repo that you just created. Look for this pen. There's a pen here. So look for that and click on it. So that will allow you to edit. Okay. That will give you access to a page that you can use to edit this document. So you can see there's that page. If you click on it, then you can be able to edit it. So with that, something else comes up here. you realize the language that is being utilized here, uh, it's not, so what you're used to is what they call, you're used to using rich text. Uh, so like your Microsoft Word document has rich text. But if you, as you've been utilizing it, you've been utilizing the HackMD, and the HackMD there that you have been using uses Markdown. So .md, if you look at the name of this README file, it's .md. So that .md there means Markdown, and that's the language that is used there. So it's plain text. So so Markdown there, uh, plain text. But if you want to now add different levels, so example, this is the title, you see this hash, and then the space. So that is the title, the first level title. So if you look at it, first repo at boss. So if you click on preview, you'd see how it will be rendered. So you type it in this form, but as it's displayed in this particular form. You can see this is the first level title there. You can have the second level, 2 hashes, third level, 3 of them, fourth level, if you use 4 of them, and so forth. So if you click on this, you realize now they are all titles, but at different level, and the size of the text also is reflected as such. Okay, so there is a link if you look at the slides that I've shared, there's a link to an introduction to Markdown. Okay, and it gives you a few of those. I don't think we have as much time to do this 10-minute tutorial for Markdown, but I want you to, at your own time, take that tutorial. So this will be your assignment or your hands-on much later on. So as an assignment, just go through this whole introduction. But I want you to just have a look at a number of things. I think, and I want to also just link it up to, if you've been using WhatsApp and you've seen some people would bold some text, would italicize some text, would underline, and so forth. What they are using, actually, if you think about it, is Markdown. And so it just maybe could be a bit different, but this is how it would look like. So Markdown, if you use star at the beginning and at the end, then you get italic. You could also use underscore. You also get italic. If you use 2 stars, you get bold, 2 underscores. So these are just equivalents. You can use 1 hash is heading 1, 2 hashes, heading number 2, but you can also get the same headings by using these equal signs below the heading. But as long as below the headings there, or you could utilize a single one for heading number 2. So this one can only be used for heading number 1 and number 2. You can't go to 3. But if you add 3 hashes here, you get heading number 3 and so forth. You can add a link, and I want us to just focus on this level here. This one, for now, there's no pressure for using them. It's a bit more tricky. So a link is just a square bracket, and you can do that either on the HackMD document that we have. The same syntax with Python, not exactly. So Python has its own specific syntax, and uh, yeah, it's definitely not the same. So in Python, if you use the hash here, it's a comment. Okay, it's a comment when you're using Python. This is just plain text here. It's not programming or anything. It's just plain text that you are utilizing, but it's Markdown. So if you're using literate programming tools like now, if you're using R Markdown, if you've seen that, or you're using Jupyter notebooks, then that's a different way. But for now, just consider it different. So for a link, you could have a square bracket and then introduce a link there. Okay, so this would be a link. An image at the beginning, you have an exclamation mark, and then a URL to the image. So as long as you have an URL to an image, you can be able to display an image there. Oh, okay. Yes, I think you are referring to Jupyter Notebooks. Yes. So Jupyter Notebooks it's called literate programming. So it's a combination of, so you have a cell for the code and you have another cell for Markdown. It actually is the same if it is in that case. Markdown is Markdown. So you can add block quotes, lists. So you can ordered list and ordered list, and a few others. So I think for now, what you would be utilizing would be for the most case, the first few of them. So I want us to go to our first repo. So click on your first repo, uh, click on edit file. I want you to just capture a few items there. So what you have there, that's mm, is the different levels. And then the next thing you could capture would be a list is set like this, or at least 1, 2, 3. If you visualize it, you'd see that you have a list. But I can even just, if I wanted to, just wanted to show you something. You see all of them 1, 1, 1. But if you preview it, you should find it's still 1, 2, 3. Okay. So the moment you've just typed 1, it knows that I want the Markdown actually interpreter would know that this needs to be an ordered list. Okay. So this ordered list. The unordered you could now unordered. So you'd still have the same. So you could use star 1, 2, 3, and so forth. Okay. So here, if you preview it, you'd see now an ordered list. But I could decide to say, let's bold this, because these are key statements there. So we add, so that's ordered list. So you add a star. So 2 stars, make it into search. Okay. So if you preview it, you'd see that's what you're getting, ordered list and ordered list and so forth. I could add an image, so, or a link. Um, So a link is square brackets, open, and then parentheses. So the what's in the square brackets is the text that would be displayed. Okay, so my link, very very basic there. Uh, GitHub.com. So it's no longer my link; it's GitHub link. So I can just change this to GitHub link, github.com. So if I preview it, you'd see now it's displayed as a link. If I click on it, it would actually, for now, I don't want to leave this page, but it would take me to github.com. Okay. So that's what you have done there. So the syntax, just go and read up on these resources more and get to learn more about that. So what we've been doing is editing that. So all those editing. So we've edited now our document with a few things. I could add my image. So image is still the same, square brackets, but you have an exclamation mark at the beginning. So it's the same as a link, but with an exclamation mark, okay? My picture, and I could just find, so if I go to my account, uh, my profile, and uh, copy image link to the image here that I have here. I've just copied an image link there and added that link. So it's avatars, GitHub content, that user, and the rest. if I preview it, you'd see that it would pull down that link and share it here. Okay, so that's my image there. Yeah, it doesn't look like me, or it does. I don't know. So that's how you do that, and you can be able to create a very detailed and rich document just based on purely based on GitHub. So now we have our document and it's fully set up. Now what we've done, we've created those changes. So at the bottom here, read me. So this is a commit. So committing is now, yes, we've made the changes, we need to save it. So you want to save it, commit changes, give it a name. Uh, so what have we done? Uh, uh, Markdown, edit readme. You can add a description. You can specify who is, for you to probably be one in there. Then, so there are two things you can create, commit directly to a branch or create a new branch. For now, commit directly to main branch and commit that change. Okay. So you can now see that you have a document that you've created using Markdown, and you've committed that to Git. So if you look at history here, you'd see now that there are a number of changes. There's the initial commit, which was created automatically when you created that file. And then there is a used Markdown to edit readme. Those are the next level changes. So I can always go back and have a look at what I had at this point or what I had at this point. So you can always get to do that. Okay. So there are a number of jargon that exist when it comes to uh, Git, GitHub specifically. So there's things like forking README, which we've seen, an issue master. So actually master is no longer used now. It's actually main. And this was actually because of the slave connotation that was linked to these words. So historically, of course, if you see the certain words, blacklist is master, and master branch is now talking about the main branch, and you all those were borrowed from when history was still ridden with slavery and the rest, and we've borrowed certain terminologies and continued with them for a really long time. So what I want us to do is just explain some of these terminologies as we go along. So we have fork, readme, main, branch, collaborator, and contributor. And those are, we're going to describe those as we go along. So for the forking now, if you look at what we were doing there, what you want to do there is make your own copy of the entire repository. So you have a repository that you like, you've seen it, and you want that repository to be part of your account, to be in your account. So you fork it. So when somebody, can you fork my account or fork my repo rather, then you would be using fork there to create a copy of that repository. And then you can get files all the way from the web to your computer by cloning or downloading. So you can download the whole repo, or you can clone the whole repo. And cloning the whole repo would be doing that on the command line. And then, so you can see the two different ways. The forking would create a copy online on your GitHub account. When you clone, you're copying the files to your computer. And in both cases, the changes that you make will not affect the original. Okay. You can create an issue. So create, assign, and manage issues. So there's a tab there, written issues. So if you look at your account, you'll see that. That's where you create issues. So issues are just more or less, it could be things that need to be done. It could be, oh, there's an error in your code here. Can you change it? Or I faced this particular challenge. Can you give me additional information? So that's those things like that, assign modules, develop, and so forth. And you can tag them as needed, especially when you're collaborating with others. You can say this is, you need help here, and this one is new content, this one is a bug, and so forth. And then you had, so initially, of course, this has changed from master to, it's now main. So your default branch is now the main, but you can switch to different branches. So branches are the things you'd use to test out things before you are confident that you want to combine them to the main. Okay. So if your collaborator suggests changes, when you do that, the changes go to the new branch until you accept them and match them. So the branch is there of different branches here. Merging them is now you are accepting their changes and adding it to your main branch there. Okay. Uh, a few years ago, there was been a revolution to change some of these wordings to ensure that it reflects, not a few years, just like last year, to reflect the new changes in the world. The README, so this is automatically rendered by your app. This is where, like, if you visit a repo, you'd always see the content of a README, and that's the first point of contact any collaborator, any other user has with your repository or with your software, with your code. Okay, and that's where you provide information on how you would want them to interact and engage with the content that you have there. Then you can also automatically upload using the upload folder. You can upload files from your computer to your repo to work. You can create a new file using that. And then these are settings. So these where you can add your collaborators and all the other things there. So collaborators, so you have two people. You have the collaborator and a contributor. So the collaborator is a trusted, so they are the inner circle. You trust that person that they're going to make the right changes. They're not going to delete your files and so forth. So you make them, so it's almost like when you're dealing with Google Docs, you say, okay, this person, they have edit permission. And then another person has comment or suggestion permission. Okay. So the person who has edit permission is a collaborator. The person who has to make comments is a contributor, if you think like that. So the contributor, they have to make it changes via pull request as opposed to compared to the collaborator. Okay. So this is a summary of all those things that we've just talked about, from issues all the way to your collaborators. So the jargon busting. So just a summary. The fork is a copy on GitHub. README, a clone is a copy on your computer. The default main branch, actually now it's just the main branch. Then a branch is an alternative version, so alternate version of the file. And then we've talked about collaborator versus contributor as well. So if you have any questions, just type on the chat and we'll give you a chance to address them. So yeah, we are now more or less done with that first step. And I want us to spend, yeah, you cannot fork your own repository. Oh, you created it as a private. Let's see. Hey, Mike.
Hi, Caleb. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very fine. I do have a kind of question that I've been facing. I've been working with some guys, and I realized there are two ways on how you can interact with your GitHub platform, and this is either by using your browser or via when you have the Git repo on your clone on your computer, where you use these within your terminal. So you get to push things within your terminal vis-a-vis uploading things on your own platform using a browser. So so one of the guys has been recommending to always use the terminal when you make changes on your files on your README. You get to push those using your terminal and not upload via your browser.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, why is there a preference on doing this via the terminal vis-a-vis doing it via the click on button on your browser? I don't know if I'm clear.
Yes, you are. So and we can talk about as we go along. So if you look at your first repo there, if we just have here, you could add files you can upload your files. So some people would use that approach. But usually what happens, like, it doesn't keep the track of the changes correctly. So you're getting a new file, almost a new file every time you do upload. But if you are working on your command line, every time within a command line or locally on your computer, every time you make changes, you commit. So you commit, you save those changes for a number of levels, and then at some point when you're comfortable, you can now push it to the repo, and it will be available to everyone. And when you've pushed to the repo, the changes that you've made at different snapshots that you've had, all those commits would be available on the web. But when you upload it, it's only a single version that's actually made available there. And that's not, uploading it is not the best use of Git and GitHub per se.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the ideal is actually to work on the command line.
All right. So yeah, so generally within your command, one is able to trace the changes and the number of uploads that you've done.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
Sure. So you've done all these jargon busting. Yes, Meshach, it's the same. Actually, a few years ago, it was called master. And of course, since that had slavery connotation, they had to change it to main. And it's linked to this movement to actually decolonize and remove some of these slave terminologies that have been in existence. So if you think about it, when you want something, if someone is being blacklisted, but then the bad, and there's whitelisting now, it's a good. So if you think about it, it's always just linked directly to when blacks were considered to be inferior to the white. And so if you are given the black name, blacklist, or anything that starts with black, it means it's not good. And so there's been a move to change the language to reflect the current state of affairs, that everyone is actually equal. We're all human beings, and we have the same, should have the same level of respect, irrespective of the skin color or tribe in our local, in Kenya or in Africa. Okay, so I want you to go to this link. This is something that all of you can do. So Dativa, if you had, I'll show you how to change it back to, if you create a private repo, I'll just show you how to change it back, how to change it to public. Okay, do that. So for now, just do this for us. Just go to this repo. Just click on that. So click on my fast fork repo there. That's not good. Do that. So you'd see what you'd end up with is that repo. This has been used by almost everyone I've taught this course. So you can see there's 47 contributors to this, and I want you to add your name to the contributors to this. Okay. So go to this section here, then fork it. So fork that account. I think I already have it already forked in my, but I can fork to a different account if I want, and I can delete it later on. For now, so for now, I'll just let me send it there. Delete it. Yeah, much later on. So that's what will happen. So forking, we said you create a copy of the same, but now in your own account. So if you do that kind of forking, what you'll end up with is now a copy, complete copy in your own repo. Okay, so I want you to just click on edit here, the edit there, and then at the top of it, at the top of that page, add your name. post workshop. Open science. So you could add your organization. So the workshop, your organization. Organization. Then something else. Any message that you want. And then go all the way to the bottom. And then on the commit changes, a lot of details. Okay, and that should be it. So at this point, commit it to master. So you would always still see master branch mentioned there. They haven't made all the updates, but it's really the same as main. Okay. The other part is you can create a new branch and then start a pull request. For now, just commit directly to master. And I now have those details. Okay. So if you look at the changes that you've made, that I've made here, are only, so if I click on this here, you'd see at the beginning here, this branch is one commit ahead of bioinfonet master. Okay. So you'd still see this still main and master, they're still there. They haven't fully changed it in all places. So don't worry about that. So I could contribute by, so if you click on contribute, so it means open a pull request. So after making all those changes and saving it, come to this point. So just if you click on just the file itself, so you can see I have some changes that I've made here. Okay, there's some changes available. But if I look at, if I go to the original, I would realize that those changes are not there. But I want to contribute to this by sending a pull request. And so after making those changes, if I click on contribute here, I can open a pull request. Okay. If I open a pull request, you'd see the changes that you've made, all those. So just click on create pull request. So create pull request. The details just remain the same, don't change much. And then just click on create pull request. You'd see those changes, it will automatically check for integration, and that's it. Okay, so since I also have access to bioinfonet, you can see it brings me directly to this one. I can now review those changes. These are Caleb's details for the boss event. These are the changes that have been made. These are in green. So green always means added. Then there's red means deleted. So you can see 6 addition, 0 deletions. So I can review the changes and I can say these are approved. So if it was, but I cannot do that since I'm the pull request author. So I cannot do that since I'm the one who started the pull request. But if you're working with a collaborator, someone else can actually come and do that. Oh, sorry. Yes, there's a recording. So we'll be able to follow along. But also the steps here are available. So click on that, click on the fork, open the README, click on the pen, then personalize the README, then commit the changes. Okay, so when you do that, then we can go to the next step. Did I capture that? Not really here. Yeah. Unfortunately, we are more or less running out of time. We'll just go on for a few more minutes and then uh, we'll stop there. Okay, so we really didn't have a lot of time for this one. So what we've done, we've created those changes. Then we can come to this point. I can match that pull request. So confirm the match. So this is not what you'll not be doing this. I'll be the one to do that. Okay. So if you go now, if you check, this is by Infonet, my first fork. You'd see these details did not exist initially. They were originally they were in my other repo, the one that I had created. So they were from Ianbit RT master, but now they are available in BioInfonet, my first fork. Okay. Yes, we'll share the links to the recording after the workshop when all of them have been added to the YouTube channel. Okay, so that's it. Let me know if you've managed to do that, to create that. So they follow the instructions here. So the first step, here. Go to that, fork it, open README, click on the pen, personalize, edit the changes. So when you've committed the changes, then the last step is send a pull request. Okay. So let me see. So anyone who've managed to do that, I'll be able to see the pull requests coming here. And I can see Winnie has managed to do that a few minutes ago. So Winnie's details, continuous integration. So I can see the details that she's made. If I click on this, I can review a diet Arsenal fan. Was that a previous one? Aspiring by informatician is what she's done. So I can review the changes and approve them. So since it's not my own, so after approving it, now it has been approved, someone else can actually approve, review, and approve. That's how you collaborate. So if you're working with a team, someone can actually just review and approve it. And then when it's been approved by maybe 3 people, then there's this continuous integration. It can automatically be matched. But for this case, I can merge it manually. So these are Winnie's details. And if we go back to the document, having captured those, you should find Winnie's detail. I don't know where she put them. Let me see. Yeah, at the end. So Winnie put our details at the very end. So now we have Winnie's detail there at the end. So anyone can do the same for this. You can just send a pull request and I'll add your details. I've seen just right now and a few minutes ago, a few of you have been able to do that. So so keep doing that at your own time. Send a pull request and I'll merge it for you. Okay. So that's what we were doing. The next step there is you can create an issue. Okay. You can create an issue, and an issue is just created to keep track of certain work that have been done. So if you go to my fork, you'd see there is an issue here. So different things, different people creating issues and so forth, right? So just go to that link, just share on the chat. I think you already have access to it, but just for quicker access. So if you click on that, it should take you to this one. So you click on new issue, automate it there. So here you can say pause and feedback. So for example, now someone says, oh, we need more time, or you are speaking, or please share the recording. Okay, so I'm just typing something there. So both event feedback. So there are a number of things. Let me just edit it for now. So there are a number of things I could assign someone to do that. So people who have access to it, I can assign it to them to work on it. I could also add labels that, oh, this is just help wanted. I could add to projects if they were projects. I could add a milestone. So these are additional things that you, especially projects and milestones, these are specific to when you're dealing with, what do you call it? When you're dealing with project management. So if you look at your account, you'd see there are issues, there are pull requests, there are discussions, there are actions, and then there's projects. These where now you can utilize Git and GitHub for project management. Okay. So yeah, so that's what we have. So if you look at it now, I have an extra issue there that has been created. So any one of you can create an issue there, and that will alert, for example, myself, oh, there's a new issue. I need to have a look at that and address their concerns as they have raised them. Okay, so that's how you utilize it. You can utilize it to more or less manage projects that, okay, this is what needs to be done by this particular person, especially when you are working collaboratively. Okay. So that's good for that step, the issue tracking. So we can move on the merging and branching. So what you've already done, you've already sent a pull request and so forth. So I'll skip this step here because we've already captured quite a few of those. Okay. So forks and pull requests, you've done that. You've created a fork and you've more or less sent a pull request. So you've done that. You've become a collaborator. You made changes on the pull request, and we've made something wonderful together. So I think we've covered more or less the key concepts that we wanted to cover in this particular course. So for the next maybe 3 or so minutes, because I know the next one. The next session is starting in
7 minutes.
7 minutes. So we'll finish in the next 2 minutes and give you at least some 5 minutes break to continue working on a few of these things. So all those have been well captured. So let me just go back to my account. So if I click on this, it will take me to my profile. And within my profile, you'd see repositories. And there was the first repo that we just created. Within that first repo, you can do a number of things. We talked about branches. So if I just type new branch, so just click on the next, click create new branch from that. So you'd see I have the main branch and I have the new branch. So the new branch, so you can see, is different. So this new branch, I could write here and say changes only available in new branch. Okay, I can commit those, add a new branch, and commit those changes. So if I go to the main branch, you realize those changes cannot be shown there. They are not there. They are only on the new branch. And this is how you would utilize. So for example, you want to test out a new program or some like alternative, then you can utilize that branches to do that. All right. So I think with that, I'll stop there. And thank you so much for your attention. If you have questions, yes, as Peter has raised, you can ask questions on Slack. You can also just raise any one of us and we can be able to provide additional guidance. So that's a quick intro to Git and GitHub and how you can utilize it for collaborative work. Keep learning, keep growing, and thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much, Caleb. We'll have a practical session again in the afternoon from 2 to 4.
Sorry, can I ask? Okay.
Yeah, we'll have a practical session in the afternoon from 2 to 4, and we can go through the same steps and through how you can be able to do more with GitHub. So we're going to take like 4 minutes, a 4-minute break, and then join in to learn Intro to Galaxy with Peter.